afternoon, everyone, and thank you very much, Michelle, for your welcome and a little rundown on my history. I will say, though, I do have 4 daughters. The 4th one is away holidaying in Canada, so she might be a little bit miffed if she was cut up. And I do have 3 sons, so I won't forget them. Thank you very much for your welcome here. I'm also aware of the big effort that you and Carla make to run these functions for us. It is indeed a great honour to be asked to speak on such an occasion, and especially having Geraldine here. I think she may have been the first daughter of a new farm Duchesne girl to attend. It is just on 75 years since I entered the hallowed grounds of Duchesne College at 52 Merthyr Road, New Farm. And probably I'm here because of my longevity, not for any great things that I've done for society, like so many of you here and you've been here before me. I grew up on a property to the north of Toowoomba and spent 4 years in boarding school in Toowoomba before arriving at Duchesne in 1949. The early history of Duchesne has been well documented, so I'll only touch on that briefly. Oakley was the gracious home of Dr. Harry Windsor and family, and with the help of Archbishop Dewey, it became the new home for Duchesne after it had moved from Stewart home. It was indeed a lovely setting. When the Windsors lived there, they even had their own cow on the property, so they had fresh milk every day. The main home, Oakley, became the private accommodation for the Sacred community, while an extension became accommodation for the Freshers. Alongside Oakley, a simple wooden building which was called the Acorn was added, and in my time it was occupied by second-year students. Finally, the college leased a lovely old home called Little Oak, in which the senior students, the well-behaved students, some graduates and junior lecturers resided. Mother Percy Dove, whom we affectionately call Mother Perce, was the college principal. We always referred to the sisters as mother, and I'm afraid I still do that to this day, so you will have to bear with me if this all seems rather odd to you. I must admit, first I stood rather in awe of Mother Percy Dove, but as I got to know her, I found her to be a kind, compassionate person with a great sense of humour. Mother Perce was ably assisted by Mother Sykes, an amazing woman whose beautiful, humble disposition hid her many talents. I still remember the Latin tutorials, they were good. She was also a great help with her culinary skills. The present students may be surprised to know that in my time at New Farm, we did our own catering when we entertained the other colleges. Now, we were ably helped by Mother Sykes. I think she covered her eyes when we put a little additive in the punch bowl. We also had Mother Freeney, who looked after the music in a tiny but beautiful chapel, which with the library was adjacent to the nuns' quarters. I can still remember the French hymn we sang, Chiré la voix. We sang that with great gusto. Then there was Mother Cosgrave, who stood at the door, pen and notebook in hand, to mark the meal chart as we dashed for the tram. Speaking of that dash to the tram, I think it was stop 16, New Bum Park. The neighbours must have dreaded that loud, repetitive bang, bang of the gate, and that was exacerbated by the big tin stopper at the bottom of it. In addition, who can forget the other sisters who took such great care of all of our needs? I hope that we were grateful for what they did to make life comfortable for us, because it certainly was. And certainly was a home away from home for us. In my day, the number of students was approximately 30 to 35. It was an extremely friendly and welcoming group with little demarcation between freshers and seniors, although rules did change as one progressed through the years. I'm sure today's students might find the rules for the 1949 freshers somewhat draconian, but Mother Percy Dove no doubt felt a great responsibility for the young country girls in her care. And of course, everyone knows country girls are well behaved. These were some of the rules for a 1949 fresher. One night outing a week until 11:30, which was considered a late night.
We didn't get much.
7 late nights per year till 1 a.m. for balls or special parties. We had to fill out a form stating where we were going and with whom, and then place it in a box in every mother's office. The porter sat up until the last girl signed in. Does that sound familiar? Yes. In our second year, I think we were permitted an extra night. When I was student president, I was given a key of my own. And no, that did not lead to a frenzied social life. In my time, the Newman Society played a large role in the social life of Duchesne girls. I very much doubt if this is the case today.
It still exists.
Our common room was the venue for the meetings and the welcome to new freshers. It will always have a special significance for me though, because that was where I met my future husband Jim, who became the Newman Society president while we were both still students. Speaking of the common room, it was certainly well used by the students of our time. Who can forget Mrs. Kelly and her band, whom we always engaged for our inter-college functions, including our at home, which was the big function of the year. This was probably the equivalent of your glamorous ball. You had to get a beautiful dress, and the worst part was, and this is what caused all the angst, you had to ask a partner. That was sort of fairly intimidating for a young country girl. Gladys Lee ran the Glee Club, and there was lots to do always in the common room, something to interest everyone. But the Glee Club was always well attended. Gladys is still alive, she's slightly older than me, and she's still living in Ingham, and I think she ran her own pharmacy for quite a while. She lives by herself in her own cottage. Sometimes visits Brisbane, but I haven't caught up with her for quite a while. She did have a sister, Lila, who was in my year, and Lila graduated in medicine, and sadly Lila passed away a few years ago. Talking about the common room again, I clearly remember the night Julie Tanks held her trousseau show in there before her wedding to Kevin Glanville. Even Reverend Mother was present, and she really enjoyed it. However, we were there to study. I did an arts degree followed by a dip ed, which back in those days was a postgraduate course. I think it's different today, but that would have been mandatory if you wanted to teach in a high school back then. Certainly in a state high school anyway. I don't know what the rule was for the private schools. I was appointed to Maryborough Girls High School, and that was a very happy appointment because the school was a former grammar school and still kept many of their old grammar traditions. To begin the day, there was a prayer assembly for the whole school. The classes were designated from Form 3 to Form 6, and our principal, Miss Adamson, was a former grammar school student herself, and it all made it, a little bit different from the normal state high school you'd find, say, in Brisbane at the time. In the meantime, my husband-to-be and I had met up again and decided to get married at the start of the next year. It was a great surprise to learn that I would have to resign upon marriage. Apparently this applied to nurses, bank tellers, and I'm sure many other people too. It was still quite a shock after 4 years of study. On reflection, I'm surprised that we were not all outraged. What would Mrs. Pankhurst have said? Some years later, when rules had changed, I could have returned to teaching, but by then I had several small children, so that wasn't an option for me at the time. We had a busy family life as Jim was a Commonwealth public servant and he had a senior position, and we eventually moved to Melbourne. This entailed finding new skills, new uniforms, all that stuff that goes on with change. But it was an exciting time as we lived in a nice suburb with lovely neighbours, and the weekends were very enjoyable as we got to travel around and show the children all the lovely spots outside Melbourne. However, we were still Queenslanders at heart and eventually returned to Brisbane. That was a busy time again with the multiple schools the children attended, and particularly so when Jim was sent to Geneva for 6 weeks as an Australian government advisory person to the ILO, the International Labour Organisation. But by that time, some of the children had finished uni and life wasn't so hectic. But that's a point of view, I guess, because instead of toddlers and youngsters, we had teenagers. I had teenagers. I've never lived vicariously through my children, but I'm very proud of them, and they've all contributed to society through their various professions. I have the greatest admiration for all of you, including my own daughters, who have continued careers while raising a family. I think you're all tremendous. Some time ago, a visitor to my home commented on a framed picture of the Sacred Heart in my hallway and asked if I had been to Duchesne. In my time at New Farm, a picture of the Sacred Heart was given to each girl on her 21st birthday. That picture with its distinctive frame is still hanging in my home. For many years, a group of former Duchesne New Farm girls who were special friends at college have met regularly to celebrate birthdays. Sadly, there are now only 2 of us left, which isn't surprising when you see me still standing here. I hope that you all now can find time this afternoon to catch up with your friends and enjoy reminiscing over those very happy college days. Finally, thank you for your attention. It has been an absolute delight to be part of today's celebration, and I'm extremely grateful to Michelle and Carla for making this possible. May God bless you, and may you always remain grateful for everything that Duchesne has done for you. Thank you.